guys, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. All right, guys, I'm back, and it is Saturday, May 4th, so may the 4th be with you, and it is 9:16 p.m. Eastern Time. We are going to get into another rousing rendition of Q-related news. We do not have any Q posts to go over tonight, but hopefully we will have soon. So let's just jump on in. Now, you may hear a little bit of disturbance tonight. It does sound like my neighbors are having a party, and I'm not quite sure, but they didn't invite me. So anyway. And also, my mother is here with me tonight visiting, so you may hear a cough or so because she has a terrible cold. As I told you yesterday, it seems like everybody I know around me has a cold. So, all right. And I do believe that I've fixed the auditory issue with playing other videos. So I think I've got that nailed as well. At least I hope so. So let me know, as always, if you are experiencing any difficulties. If the sound is too low, too high, or garbled, please let me know. And other than that, we will just jump right in. All right. Now we're going to start with Breitbart. We've got an interesting article here. Nolte, Poynter Institute wants 515 outlets blacklisted, including Breitbart News. And of course, this is just part of the ongoing push right now towards censorship of the conservative voices. Anyone that seems to have influence or a voice into conservative lives, then they are being censored right now big time. And we're seeing this more and more and more. And it's happening to more and more important people like James Woods, and we had Diamond and Silk that were banned from Facebook. We have Joseph Watson. Paul Joseph Watson was banned. Alex Jones was banned. So we do have this happening to a lot of big names right now, and this is just more of the same. Poynter Institute claims on its About page that it champions freedom of expression, and yet on another page, Poynter published a list of 515 media sites, including Breitbart News, that it wants blacklisted and shut down. Poynter calls this list an index of unreliable news sites, and isn't that the pot calling the kettle black? And is openly calling for advertisers to stop sponsoring these sites, to pull their sponsorship, to put these sites out of business. If that's not a blacklist, tell me what is. I don't know. But it is very concerning, especially because we are leading up to the 2020 elections, and the conservative voices are actively being censored. So this is a big deal, and especially because we are supposed to have free speech. Supposed to have. We used to have. We no longer have. All right, advertisers don't want to support publishers that might tar their brand with hate speech, falsehoods, or some kinds of political messaging. But too often, they have little choice in the matter. Most ad tech dashboards make it hard for businesses to prevent their ads from appearing on and funding disreputable sites. Marketers can create blacklists, but many of those lists have been out of date or incomplete. Aside from journalists, researchers, and news consumers, we hope that the UN News Index will be useful for, or the UnNews Index will be useful for advertisers that want to stop funding misinformation. And of course, that is exactly what's happened on YouTube as well, because they have demonetized most of the conservative channels. If you are saying anything that is contrary to the acceptable narrative, then you are censored, and the first thing they do is they pull your funding in terms of making your channel, demonetizing your channel. And they've done that to a lot of people, including myself. So this is straight up McCarthyism. There's nothing less than the return of the 1950s blacklisting crusade against those who hold inappropriate, unacceptable, and unapproved opinions. And might I say that it's also Orwellian. And again, I know I've mentioned this many times, but if you have never read the book 1984, please get your hands on a copy. There's also You can listen through Audible, you can listen to it on tape, which I know not everybody likes to read, but it is word for word what is happening today. It is absolutely frightening. And it seems that if you don't have the accepted narrative, if you don't have what is accepted as the norm, you are no longer entitled to free speech. I mean, did you ever think that they would have to rule our universities and so forth free speech zones? They have everywhere should be a free speech zone. I don't agree with the Muslims, but I will defend their right to say what they want to say, because I don't want my say as a Christian to be censored. So I don't agree with necessarily everyone I hear either, but I don't want them censored, because that means I could be censored. So anyway, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but this is alarming, and it's becoming more and more alarming, especially because we're leading up to the election. This is a big deal. And what's more, the lion's share of the list cites a single source, open sources, a list curated by a single assistant professor from Merrimack College, Melissa Zimdars. She is the author of academic papers such as Watching Our Weights and The Consequences and Contradictions of Televising Fatness in the Obesity Epidemic and Having It Both Ways, 2.5 Men, Entourage, and the Televising of Juvenile Post-Feminist Masculinity. What is Zimdar's methodology? Can't say exactly, as the open sources official site is totally blank. About 2 years ago, she gave an interview where she said that one of her criteria for blacklisting a site is hate. That is, she still believes the far left, SPLC, is a credible organization whose hate labels should get you kicked out of public discourse. But here's the kicker. What are they calling hate? If you disagree with abortion, that's called hate. If you disagree with Muslims, that's hate. So you can't even voice an opinion anymore. They call it hate speech, and they shut you down. It's hard to believe it's happening in America, but it is. Those of you who suddenly approve of blacklisting will argue, hey, this is how democracy works. A private company has the right to do or not do business with whoever they want. Well, how the heck do you think the 1950s blacklist worked? There was nothing more than private companies, movie studios, advertising sponsors, and private individuals, studio heads, producers, deciding all on their own whom they did and did not want to do business with. It's the same. Nevertheless, we rightly look back on the dark era with disgust as an un-American era where people were persecuted and silenced by private corporations and private individuals for holding ideas and opinions the powerful established did not want shared or discussed. And now, the 1950s blacklist has returned with a vengeance, because the establishment media are fighting for advertising dollars and have lost their moral authority and ability to influence public opinion due to outlets like this one, Breitbart News, and the Media Research Center, Pajamas Media, Washington Examiner, The Daily Wire, The Blaze, Red State, Project Veritas, Newsmax, Zero Hedge, LifeSite, Judicial Watch, Front Page, The Washington Free Beacon, The Daily Caller, and The Drudge Report, all of which are on Poynter's blacklist, exposing their lies and bias. And just as the blacklisters did during the McCarthy era, they are trying to silence us by targeting our advertising sponsors. So, because there's a lot of people on, Twitter and, well, not so much Twitter, but more because people don't usually use Twitter, but for that purpose. But I know on Facebook or on YouTube, that's what they do. The first thing they do is they demonetize you, because they know, well, you know what? A lot of people aren't going to stick around once they're demonetized. Well, I've got news for you. There's a lot of us that will stick around once we've been demonetized. And I thank you guys as my sponsors who, buy me coffee, or my Patreon supporters. I appreciate that, because that's what it's come down to. Anyway, just as some of those people targeted in the 1950s were actual communists looking to do our country harm, there are some legitimate bad faith players on Poynter's blacklist. But here's where Poynter's blacklist gets especially sinister. There is no one on Poynter's list of unreliable news outlets responsible for spreading the biggest, most irresponsible and dangerous lies of the last half decade. Lies that have caused race riots and destroyed innocent lives. In other words, the outlets Poynter does not want blacklisted are every bit as revealing as those Poynter does want blacklisted. And you could hear, oh gosh, who was it? I can't remember her name. But she was on there, I guess yesterday, saying that I want these people shut down. I don't want to listen to them. I don't think that they should have a say. But then she doesn't think that that is squelching their free speech. Well, you can't have it both ways. If you want to be able to give your opinion, you have to listen to other people's opinion. That's how free speech works. Someone should explain that to these people. There is simply no question that for over 5 years, CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, NPR, ABC, CBS, PBS, NBC, and MSNBC, Politico, BuzzFeed, have relentlessly and deliberately misled the American people on the biggest stories of the day. The Trayvon Martin hoax, the hands up, don't shoot hoax, Donald Trump can't win. The Russia collusion hoax, the Brett Kavanaugh serial rapist hoax, the Covington High School boys hoax. And yet, every outlet I listed above that are part of Poynter's blacklist either got their stories 100% correct, as Breitbart News did, or was at least skeptical of them. And remember, who was it from Breitbart that lost his life because he came out against John Podesta? So, well, we all know what happened to him. Anyway, but we are the ones, these so-called champions of free expression, are openly calling to be blacklisted, not those who have relentlessly and deliberately lied to the public for more than half a decade, which proves this is not a blacklist targeting the unreliable, but a blacklist targeting those who hold ideas the un-American Poynter finds inappropriate and unacceptable. How else to explain why Poynter wants the Media Research Center blacklisted for bias but not Media Matters? Doesn't make sense. The Poynter Institute is nothing less than a nonprofit version of Joseph McCarthy, Father Cowlin? Not sure who that is, actually, to tell you the truth, and Big Brother. There you go. That's just another story in a wide and a very long list, and continues to be longer and longer list of stories about censorship. It's happening. Didn't think it would happen in my lifetime, but it is. And don't think Canada's any better. We don't have a free speech. We don't have a free press here anymore at all. At all. There's no, there isn't even any alternate media sites here in Canada that can actually report the true news. So yeah, we're not any better. All right, let's go back and see what else we can get into. I wanted to show you this. You know, it wouldn't be, come on now, it wouldn't be a show without mentioning Nancy Pelosi. But don't worry, I'm not going to play any videos of her because, well, we all know. All right, let's hang on here. Let me get in there, turn my ad blocker. Okay. Speaker Pelosi accuses Attorney General William Barr of committing a crime. He lied to Congress. Yeah. Now, here's a real news story. Not. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says Attorney General William Barr lied to Congress. Now, remember, they're counting on the fact that none of us watched this, which I did, and probably a lot of you did as well. So, you know, they can speak this stuff, but I mean, we can see through it. They're very, very transparent. So she says misleading lawmakers would be a crime if anyone else did so. A Justice Department spokeswoman called Pelosi's comments reckless, irresponsible, and false. And of course they are false. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Thursday, I guess it was Thursday, accused Attorney General William Barr of committing crime by lying to Congress about Robert Mueller's report and Mueller's issues with how Barr has characterized the special counsel's findings. Now, this is interesting to me because Barr is only the messenger. He did not write this report. And Mueller was supposed to be this darling of bipartisanship, right? I mean, the Democrats all agreed. I mean, they were all looking to Mueller and saying, oh, yeah, he's our man. He's our man. And everybody seemed content to let him, research, which he did for 2 years to the tune of what was it now? $50 million, 200 witnesses, and found nothing. And all Barr did was come into that courtroom and say what the report said. How is that lying to Congress? You tell me. What is deadly serious about it is the Attorney General of the United States of America is not telling the truth to Congress. Now, these are Nancy Pelosi's words. That's a crime, the California Democrat told reporters. Pressed again about the accusation, Pelosi said he lied to Congress. If anyone else did that, it would be considered a crime. Nobody is above the law. Asked whether Barr should go to jail, the speaker responded that there's a process involved here. In a statement in response, Justice Department spokeswoman Carrie Kupak said Pelosi's baseless attack on Attorney General is reckless, irresponsible, and false. And I think any of us that saw the exchanges happening there between the Democrats and Attorney General Barr will quite readily say that this is false. We saw what was happening. Barr said he was not aware of concerns the Mueller team had about his summary, but news reports revealed this week that Mueller had written a letter to Barr expressing concerns about how the Attorney General depicted the substance of the report before the Attorney General testified. Here's an exchange from April 9th hearing that apparently sparked Pelosi's accusations. Reports have emerged recently, General, that members of the special counsel's team are frustrated at some level with the limited information included in your March 24th letter. Do you know what they're referencing with that? Barr, no, I don't. I suspect that they probably wanted more put out, but in my view, I was not interested in putting out summaries. And see, his job was to come in and tell Congress the bottom line. And what was the bottom line? There was no evidence. Not that there was insufficient evidence, because that's another thing that a lot of people are saying, oh, well, the report, there just wasn't enough evidence to bring it up to the legal level of being able to prosecute him. No, there was no evidence found. None. Zip. Nada. And how could he be guilty of collusion if there wasn't even a crime? Or how could he be guilty of obstruction of justice if there wasn't even... How can you obstruct justice when there isn't a crime? How does that work? But so Barr came in and he told them the bottom line, because that's what he was supposed to do. He said, look, there's no obstruction here. There's no collusion. There's nothing here. There's no there. But, that doesn't stop the Democrats. The comment from the highest-ranking Democrat in the country intensifies the party's criticism of the top U.S. law enforcement official, while Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer have accused Barr of protecting Trump and having a conflict of interest. Neither lawmaker has previously gone as far as alleging a crime. Pelosi has so far resisted calls to impeach the president, which have intensified following the release of Mueller's redacted report. And why has she so far resisted calls to impeach the president? Because there's nothing to impeach him on. How can you impeach him? And they need, isn't it 3/4 of the Senate vote that they need to impeach a president? They're not going to get that because the Republicans have the Senate. It's absolutely ludicrous. So Schumer, meanwhile, is writing a letter to Barr questioning the Attorney General's views on executive power, particularly his suggestion that a president could end an investigation if they feel they are falsely accused. NBC, which Trump never did. He never did end the investigation. So he let Mueller go on, knowing that it was a witch hunt. He let him go on. He didn't stop him. He didn't fire him. So there was no obstruction. The senator wrote that if these views are truly your views, you do not deserve to be Attorney General. Democrats want Mueller to testify publicly and have questioned why the Justice Department decided not to charge the president with obstructing justice by trying to influence Mueller's investigation. While Mueller's report declined to say whether Trump obstructed justice, he also noted that the report did not exonerate Trump. It also sets out a detailed case for Congress to potentially investigate the president for obstruction. But again, how do you prosecute someone for obstruction when there was no crime? So anyway, we'll come down to the bottom here. This week's event have escalated a partisan battle over congressional witnesses who have testified about the investigation and the president's conduct. Democrats shot down a GOP resolution Wednesday to refer Trump's former lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen to the Justice Department for accusations of lying to Congress. Now, okay, this is being put out by CNBC, so we know it's biased to begin with. And it most certainly is biased. Anyway, this is interesting too, and I'm not going to go into it, but it says a parody website with embarrassing photos of Joe Biden is outranking his official campaign website, which is a little funny, and you can imagine which pictures they are. All right, now let's go back, because I want to, you people that are saying, you know, I don't know if anything's happening. Okay, here is Nancy Pelosi just a few months ago when she took over Speaker of the House and when she received her gavel. And look at her there. Now, look at her now. That's just a few months apart, these two pictures. You don't think she's worried? Oh, she's worried big time. What if they investigate her and her, what is it, $200 million that she got while in Congress? Yeah, she's worried. She's worried. All right, now let's come down here. I'm going to skip that one right now, and we're going to come down here to Cat Turd. And, you know, love me some Cat Turd. I love this guy. I don't know. I think he or she, I don't know necessarily that it's a man. They just go by the name Cat Turd, and they're a great person to follow on Twitter. Anyway, Cat Turd says, scratch and sniff, Joe Biden can't physically last another 18 months, even if he wins the primary. He has about as much energy as a sloth on a morphine drip. Trump will run circles around him just like he did Hillary. And of course, we know that's true, and we know all his touchy-feeliness is coming back to haunt him in a very big way, as it should. All right. Now, you know, I really don't want to give this guy any more FaceTime. You know what I'm saying? I really don't. You know, the guy with the Kentucky Fried Chicken, sitting there eating greasy Kentucky Fried Chicken, and he brings a chicken statue to put in the seat of Attorney General William Barr. That was a big stunt, and here he is again in the news. I guess negative attention is better than none, in his eyes anyway. And this is the guy with the, now somebody corrected me, it's not a mullet, because he's bald and he has a mullet, so it's called a skullet. I didn't know. Who knew? Anyway, let's look at this. House Judiciary Dem Cohen, if Barr doesn't comply with subpoenas, no other alternative but using Sergeant at Arms to bring him in. Yeah. Okay, Cohen. You Kentucky Fried Chicken eating maniac. That's what he is. And did you see the classic Trump troll? It had him and Attorney Barr sitting on Air Force One eating Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I laughed until I cried. Seriously. On Friday's broadcast of CNN's AC 360, House Judiciary Committee member Steve Cohen, Democrat from Tennessee, stated that if Attorney General William Barr doesn't comply with the committee's subpoenas, the committee has no other alternative but to use the sergeant at arms to bring Barr to the House. He was there on Wednesday. He answered all the questions, ridiculous questions, absolutely asinine, ludicrous questions. He sat there and he answered. Yeah, not sure what these people are smoking. Cohen said, I hope it would be inherent contempt, because in inherent contempt, we'd go out, take him and bring him in and have him personally brought to the House. Host Anderson Cooper asked, you actually want to send out the sergeant at arms and force the Attorney General to come? Cohen answered, yes, because otherwise it's up to the Justice Department. The Justice Department is not going to do anything to take a contempt citation from us and enforce it against their boss. So you've got an impossible situation there, and it leaves us no other alternative except to use our sergeant at arms to bring him in. Now, you know, when Anderson Cooper, is questioning you, then you got big issues, because you know Anderson Cooper hates Trump. Hates. So, yeah, but even Anderson Cooper says, you actually want to send out the sergeant at arms and force the Attorney General to come? Yeah, that's what he's suggesting, because he's a Kentucky Fried Chicken eating maniac. Yeah, anyway, let's go back, see what other trouble we can get into tonight. Okay, this is just for fun, and no, this is not a kid in a blender, okay? It's not a kid in a blender. It's called a pigostat. I didn't know. Maybe some of you guys have had children, infants or toddlers that needed to be x-rayed. This is how they x-ray them. I found it amusing, but then we know that my humor is a little bit off. Let's take a look. Pigostat. Who knew? Meet the pigostat. That is not a kid in a blender, but it sure looks like a kid in a blender to me. Now, I don't know why these pictures are hysterical to me, but they are. Now, I'm sure these kids are not having a good time. They really aren't. But the pigostat helps keep wiggling kids still while getting an x-ray. Now, I would like a pigostat for my cat Sammy. Put him in the pigostat, wouldn't have to worry about anything. Wouldn't have to worry about my cords being chewed. Wouldn't have to worry about my shoes being chewed. Be a good idea. I'm looking into trying to find one for Sammy, a pigostat. I think we all need one. All right, anyway, I'm not going to, I don't know, it just looks hysterical to me. These kids are not happy. And actually, I did click on a video of a child being x-rayed in a pigostat, and the child was crying. So I don't imagine they like being constricted that way, but it is necessary. I suppose if you have a child that, needs to be x-rayed and it's going to wiggle around, you need them to be still. So pigostat comes in. So that's our frivolous news for the day. Maybe not so frivolous if you need one. Pigostat. All right. Now, let's see what other trouble we can get into. All right. Now, let's see. Oh, yes, I wanted to be sure to mention this. Dystopian approach. SEC gives blessing to MasterCard's idea of cutting off customers with right-wing views. Really? Apparently, blocking payments to individuals or groups by financial service firms impedes freedom of speech in a free society, journalist Ben Swan has told RT following reports that MasterCard is allegedly on course to censor the far right. The New York-based firm is reportedly being forced by left-leaning liberal activists to set up an internal human rights committee that would monitor payments to white supremacist groups and anti-Islam activists. Now, yes, anti-Islam activists. Now, white supremacist groups, now you will remember that they are calling all Trump supporters white supremacists. Why? I don't know, because there is no president in the history of the United States that has done more for the African American population than Trump. So, I don't know, but there you go, if you have MasterCard. The problem is that everyone has their own views, and in a free society, the idea of a free society is that you are free to have your belief systems as long as you're not harming anyone else physically. Swan told RT America, but your belief system belongs to you and you have the right to be wrong. White supremacists have the right to be wrong. MasterCard is not the only holder of purse strings that is mulling the selective banning of individuals from their services and funds. Patreon and PayPal have previously barred individuals from receiving payments using their platform due to their extreme views, but unlike crowdfunding platforms, being cut off from one of the leading American multinational financial services corporations will most likely have a much greater impact on the financial stability of an individual or group, especially after the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission reportedly blessed MasterCard's undertaking. By doing this, Swan believes the government granted big corporations the ability to control what voices are heard. So how do you feel about that? Now, it sounds all right, because there's none of us that say, oh yeah, we agree with the white supremacists. There's none of us that would say that. But they still have the ability, or they should have the ability, to say what their views are. Because if they're not allowed to say what their views are, what's to say? How long will it be? Well, it's happening now. If you have certain Christian views, you're censored. So my thing is not that I agree with them. No, I do not agree with them, but I will defend their right to free speech, as I would anyone, whether I agree with them or not, because if their free speech is cut off, so might mine be. It's like I can't remember even who said it. Was it Bonhoeffer? I'm not sure, but he said, that when they came for whatever, I said, well, I'm not this, so I didn't do anything. And then finally, when they came to me, there was nobody left to stand up for me. And that's the truth. Like, we're seeing all these people get their free speech cut off, and we're saying nothing. Not all of us, but a lot of us are saying nothing. We're letting it happen. So what happens when they come for our free speech? As Christians, as conservatives, as whatever you identify as, what happens when they come for your free speech? Because they will. So that is why I will defend to the death everyone's right for free speech, whether I agree with them personally or not. So, all right. Now, and it says the fact that the SEC has given a green light to this essentially says the SEC supports the idea of censoring these groups in order to freeze out essentially everyone you don't agree with. It is such a dystopian 1984, and there is that book again, worldview, and yet we're living through it right now, the journalist observed. And we are. I'm so glad, because I read that in high school, but when I was doing my master's, that's one book that I chose to do a really in-depth essay on, and I was so glad that I chose that one, because there's so much that I'd forgotten or that I didn't understand when I studied it in high school. I didn't have enough of a worldview yet to really understand the book. So I was glad as an adult that I went back to it, because I see now what a brilliant, almost prophecy it really was. All right. Now, let's go back and look at what else we have. All righty. Now this you'll find interesting. If you don't, you need to check your pulse. All right. Look at this. Exclusive. And this is from Big League Politics, I do believe. Yes, Big League Politics. All right. Says exclusive. Jerry Nadler's son works for firm suing Trump, which presents conflict of interest. Well. Now, isn't that something? Yeah. Conflict of interest, indeed. Democrat Congressman Jerry Nadler, leading the investigative charge against President Donald Trump, has a son whose firm is trying to get access to Trump documents for their clients in numerous lawsuits against President Trump. Congressman Jerry Nadler has a big conflict, our source tells Big League Politics in Washington, D.C. His son, Michael Nadler, got a job with Gibson, Dunn, and Crutcher, LLP, in 2018. That's convenient because Jerry Nadler and the Democrats just won control of the House in 2018. Gibson, Dunn, and Crutcher hired Jerry's son, and Gibson, Dunn, and Crutcher are the main nemesis against Trump and the Trump administration on numerous lawsuits. Now, the Nadler family will gain access to thousands of Trump documents via Jerry's subpoenas, our insider stated. This is absolutely, I know I use this word, I need another word, but it's gobsmacking. It is hard to even fathom this. And I know I say this all the time, but if this were written in a fictional book, no one would believe it. They really wouldn't. It's hard to believe. It's really hard to believe. So Gibson Dunn represents CNN Jim Acosta in his lawsuit against the Trump White House after President Trump revoked Jim Acosta's press credentials for creating a disturbance in a press briefing and making physical contact with a female White House intern. In December, Gibson Dunn announced that it was representing the Center for Reproductive Rights in its lawsuit against the Trump State Department concerning abortion language in Trump administration's human rights reports. Gibson Dunn's global co-chairman, Ted Boutros, sued President Trump in a bid to protect the DACA DREAM program. So, yeah, conflict of interest indeed. And now it makes sense why Nadler was so freaking hostile to AG Barr. I've never seen the likes of it. And did you see him cut off? Oh gosh, who was that? Was it Gates? Representative Gates? He just shut off his microphone. He wouldn't let him speak. Unbelievable. All right. Yeah, just when you think it can't get any stranger, it does. It does. All right, and let's look at this from CBS News. Beto O'Rourke says he put Stacey Abrams in charge of combating voter suppression. Now, if this wasn't coming from a real news source, like, well, not a real news source, but, you know, like a mainstream news source, I would have thought that this was a joke, and I would have laughed, honestly, because putting Stacey Abrams in charge of combating voter suppression, that's like asking a wolf to guard your sandwich. Come on, people. This is just ridiculous. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. And yet, so believable. And this from Candace Owens. I really am impressed by this young lady a lot. She has a very strong voice, a strong conservative voice, and a very, she's just really gained a lot of exposure, and rightfully so. Anyway, Candace Owens says, poverty rate among blacks, 22%. Poverty rate among whites, 11%. Poverty rate among married blacks, 7%. Isn't that interesting? Poverty rate among married blacks, 7. Poverty rate among blacks, 22. Do not let liberal supremacists convince you that white people are the problem at the same time that their policies encourage the 77% father absent rate in black households. I am so glad that there is a Candace Owens, seriously, because she is able to speak into the issues for African Americans and in a way that I don't think many people could. So, have a lot of respect for her. Now, this from Educating Liberals. Riley Howell, the 21-year-old UNC Charlotte student who died while saving his classmates from an active shooter, is going to be buried with full military honors. Well deserved. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. John 15:13. That, of course, is the Holy Scripture. And I am delighted that he will be given full military honors. I really am. I think he deserves it. I think what he did took an incredible amount of courage, and I think that there would have been far more deaths. There would have been had he not done what he did. So now I can't remember what this is, but let's take a quick look at it because it might be something really juicy. Oh, I'm going to leave that for another day, to tell you the truth. All right, now let's go back and see what else. Oh, and we've got, let's go here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just want to run this by you because this is from Star Political. Tlaib's father says she lied big time to get elected. Well, I think most of us knew that, but it's interesting that it's coming out. Michigan Representative Rashida Tlaib's father accused her of falsifying her address on election affidavit by lying big time to get elected. A 2010 Detroit News article noted, according to the Daily Wire, Tlaib's father, Harbi Alabed, made the accusations against Tlaib, who at the time was a freshman state-level representative from the 12th District in Detroit's southwest side. The newspaper article was scrubbed from the internet when the Detroit News migrated to a new website, but was available in a subscription-based digital file. Thank goodness for digital files. Yes, because that is exactly what they do. They try to scrub everything that makes them look bad. Well, it doesn't always work, does it? Okay, let's come here. Now this from Ernest Allen, and he is a listener on our show, I know that, and he was responding to Mark Grant, who said liberals at Yale hold a hunger strike, so the young Republicans host a barbecue right next to them. Now, you got to admit that's funny. I don't care who you are. That's funny. Sounds like something I would do, but... All right, now, here is the next thing. Now, this is Dr. Gina, and she is responding to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris said, "I'll be frank. In this week's hearing, Attorney General Barr refused to answer most of my questions. And when he did, his answers were alarming. It's time for him to resign. Add your name if you agree." Now, Dr. Gina responds and says, "I'll be frank. You are desperate for him to be gone because you know the investigation of the investigations has rightfully begun, Kamala Harris, and your chances of winning anything in 2020 are at 0. Yes, that is precisely what is going on. Well spoken, Dr. Gina, whoever you are. I think I'm going to start following her on Twitter. And this is also very interesting. Hang on. We've got the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, snubbed by the Queen. London mayor not invited to Trump state banquet. Gee, I wonder why. Can't imagine why, can you? Yeah, Sadiq Khan snubbed by the Queen. London mayor not invited to Trump state dinner. Sadiq Khan has been shunned by the Queen, who has not invited the London mayor to U.S. President Donald Trump's state banquet at Buckingham Palace. Well, I think that's just as well, personally, but whatever. If you feel differently, please put it in the comments below. I do read through the comments. I comb through them frequently. Sometimes don't get to all of the comments, especially when they're up into the hundreds and hundreds. It's difficult for me to read every single one, but I do try. So please, if you disagree, please put it in the comments below. You are perfectly okay to disagree respectfully, and as I reserve the right to disagree with you respectfully. So there you go. Now, this from Donald J. Trump. When will the radical left-wing media apologize to me for knowingly getting the Russia collusion delusion story so wrong? The real story is about to happen. Why is the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, and MSNBC allowed to be on Twitter and Facebook? Much of what they do is fake news. Well, That is not news to us, especially to any of us that dig into the real news. We see exactly what's happening, and it's alarming, and that's probably why you're here, listening to me. And it's why I listen to other alt media. You know, I want the real news. And I don't want to have my hand held. So there you go. Okay, this by Joe M. And he is responding to Donald J. Trump, who said, very good call yesterday with President Putin of Russia. Tremendous potential for a good/great relationship with Russia, despite what you read and see in the fake news media. Look how they have misled you on Russian collusion. The world can be a better and safer place. Nice. And Joe M. responds by saying, we'll soon learn that America's real foreign enemies are our traditional allies, UK, Germany, Australia, and New Zealand. When your own country is being governed by domestic enemies, real enemies are sold as friends, and real friends as enemies. So very, very true. Hard to believe that the UK, Australia, New Zealand and Germany were in on spying on Trump. Very hard to believe, but that's exactly what happened. All right, and this by Carmine Sabia. Democrats celebrate the banning of James Wood, Paul Watson, Alex Jones, and Laura Loomer. If we do not have freedom of speech for everyone, then we have it for no one. Conservatives fighting regulation do not get it either. It will soon be you. Before 2020, it will be all of us. Yes, indeed. All right. Now, this is Canadian, but I wanted to bring this up to you because there are Canadians that listen, and this is unbelievable. And Nikki P says this has got to stop. Trudeau government planning to replicate carbon tax with plastic tax, which means anytime you buy anything that's made of plastic, there will be an extra tax added on, because the carbon tax and putting our gas up sky high is not enough, apparently. You know, he's got to do more to wreck the country. I don't think that the election to get him out can happen soon enough. Anyway, yes, it hasn't even been a month since Ottawa imposed its hated carbon tax on much of the country, and lo and behold, it already has a new tax on the table. Yes, the plastic tax. So there you go. So you could be living in Canada. There you go. Paying sky-high prices for everything, including housing. All right. Now, I know you guys on the West Coast are still paying sky-high prices for housing, but it's getting unreal around here. Okay, this by Die Oppressor Lieber. Wow, this is getting weirder. Now, you all heard about the plane that went off the runway, right? In Jackson. Where was it? It was in Florida, Jacksonville, I think. And anyway, he says, wow, this is getting weirder. The plane that ran off the runway at JAX, NAS, had 150 people on it and was flying in from Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. This smells like a deep state sabotage. Who from Gitmo was on that plane? And down here, he's responding to himself, because down here he said, very strange. Commercial planes don't land at NAS JAX. Must have been an emergency landing. So I don't know. I know I did read in the news that they believe that the pets on board had died, probably because they were down in the cargo hold and that part was in water. But here's the weird thing. It's coming from Guantanamo Bay, so I don't know. I mean, I know that there's a huge community there of guards and so forth. And I suppose when they're living there, they probably do have their pets there. But it's just a weird news item, if you ask me. And I am still looking into it because there's something that doesn't smell right about it at all. Not at all. Okay, and I guess I did not get the picture of Trump and Barr eating their Kentucky Fried Chicken, and what a shame that is, because it is something. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'm going to go out to Twitter, and I'm going to go to Donald Trump's Twitter page. Alrighty. And let's see if we can find it here. Well, now I don't know where they found that. Well, let's do this. Because you gotta see it, man. It's hysterical. Okay. Trump and Barr eating KFC. Here we go. No, that's Steve Cohen, the Skullet Man. So we should have another one here of Trump and Barr eating Kentucky Fried Chicken, which to me was classic trolling. Classic trolling. Well, now I can't find it. Well, here's part of it. I don't know. I'll try to find it for the next time. I did have it, and I thought I had copied it and pasted it, but apparently I didn't. So I will try to find it for you for the next video. And I think I'm going to stop there for tonight. And I will be back tomorrow and with more gobsmacking news. And that is it, I believe. I do have some other things, but it's getting late, and I do want to keep this to an hour. So there you are. I'm going to sign off for tonight. So thank you guys so much for listening, as always, and thank you for your comments, your suggestions, and your encouragement. I very much appreciate it, and of course your support. I appreciate that as well. So please stay safe, stay well, and remember, always seek truth, because deception bites. See you guys later. Have a good night.